Morning, supers. How are you doing this morning? I hope you're having a wonderful day, a wonderful week. It is Hump Day. This is what's this? It's October 13th for a Wednesday. Today we have a couple of news stories. The Hasbro CEO passes away. Best Buy pushes ahead with its healthcare strategy. A record 4.3 million workers walked off the job in August. $500 million joint venture aims to curb climate change with forest investments. And I answered the question, should I try to fix my brand or start fresh? Unfortunately, I don't have a ton of information about that, so we're gonna work with what we got. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat while we're live streaming this here this morning. And if you're listening to the podcast replay, I appreciate you listening, and I'd love to hear from you as well. If you want to leave a rating review, tell me what you love, what you want to hear about. That would be absolutely awesome to have. So let's get started. Hasbro CEO Brian Goldner has died just 2 days after taking medical leave. Brian's work brought joy and laughter to children and families around the world, a company statement read. He dies at the age of just 58. Hasbro, the toy maker, announced Tuesday, just 2 days after Goldner stepped down to take a medical leave. Goldner, 58, disclosed last year that he had been receiving treatment for prostate cancer since 2014. He joined the company in 2000 and was appointed chief executive in 2008. Rich Stoddart, an independent director on Hasbro's board, was appointed interim CEO when Goldner's leave was announced. Stoddart has served as Hasbro's board on Hasbro's board since 2014 and was previously CEO at a marketing company called Inner Workings, an advertising agency. Leo Burnett Worldwide. Since joining the company more than 2 decades ago, Brian has been the heart and soul of Hasbro. As a charismatic and passionate leader in both the play and entertainment industries, Brian's work brought joy and laughter to children and families around the world. Hasbro is known for its My Little Pony toys and its partnership with Star Wars and Marvel. It also makes Monopoly, which saw a surge in sales over the pandemic as lockdowns led to increased family time. So that is absolutely terrible. My heart goes out to the whole Hasbro team, as well as his family and friends. It's never easy to lose somebody that you know and love, but it's also even worse to lose somebody who actively brought love and good feelings and all that to and fun to you and the people around you. So that is heartbreaking to hear that he may have succumbed to the treatments for the cancer that he has been battling with for the last 6 years, 7 years. But yeah, that's absolutely horrible. Oh, I forgot to put out my nameplate there and my book, so it's a good time to mention. If you haven't checked it out, Sales Won't Save Your Business. It's available on Amazon audiobook, e-reader, and Apple books, as well as in physical book form, in book form, if you will. Best Buy pushes ahead with its healthcare strategy by acquiring Current Health. Best Buy said Tuesday that it struck an agreement to acquire Current Health, a tech company that helps it with remote patient monitoring and telehealth. It already owns 2 other healthcare companies. With the move, the retailer is pushing further into a sector that CEO Corey Barry frequently describes as a growth opportunity. So I'll link this article down below, of course. I love the idea of getting diversified. So if you in your business have not diversified in some way, shape, or form, it's never too late to start. It's one of those things where when you're looking to diversify, you want to get something that complements what you already are doing and bringing to the table. You don't want to get too far into the woods or something that's going to be totally different and doesn't enable, like, it's not an enabling um, acquisition or diversification. It's a disabling. So, and how would it be disabling? So, if you are diversifying your business, and we have three means of resources, right? Time, energy, and money. And you have to allocate those resources accordingly so that you don't run into the issue of uh, you know overextending yourself with energy or money or the time. You can get more time by adding more employees. You can get more energy by adding more employees. Money you can get more by selling more and by making sure that you're making a healthy profit on those things that you're selling. But ultimately, uh, I like the move because I think that Best Buy knows that they absolutely know that their retail days are numbered, or their mass retail days are numbered. And as it gets closer, like as that end game comes closer, they need to do one, or actually a couple different things, and they've been working on those things for a couple of decades now, right? With the Geek Squad, offering services that people have to come for, offering in-home services that people have to have people come to their home for. By having that relationship of going to people's houses, it helps them potentially have this telehealth and patient monitoring service that they could have in the same kind of setup that they have the Geek Squad setup, where they have a central hub. And I don't know if it's still this way because it's been a while since I've kept up on it, but the way they used to have is they had like a central hub down in like Alabama or Arkansas. I don't know, one of those states down in America, middle America. And that's where they would, if you had like a real big problem with a laptop or computer, that's where you would send it to. So they try to fix the stuff there. They have their support center there, and they would call up for any issues they have. They dial back to them to run services, cleaning services and stuff on PCs. So that has been huge for them, right? In enabling them to be able to float, so much so that, like, you look at Staples, and Staples had Easy Tech and tried to replicate their Geek Squad, but Geek Squad is just so much far further reaching, installing home entertainment systems and things of that nature. That it is a great service that they have. So having home monitoring services, things, especially as people are home more, even with the pandemic subsiding, it's really it's a really good move for them to get into, because healthcare is not going away anytime soon, and to be able to be diversified in health is an excellent opportunity for them, especially if they have a health technology, right? And they're known for technology. You go to Best Buy to buy technology, though they do have toys now as well. But you get that correlation there, and with a customer base, all of a sudden you have yourself a great opportunity to knock it out of the park with with. I would be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if this is also about the age demographic that they're catering to with the Geek Squad, right? An older demographic that needs their computers fixed, doesn't know how to do it, doesn't have someone else to come and do it for them. So they go to the Geek Squad, and that same demographic could probably use home patient monitoring, remote patient monitoring, and telehealth. So I think it's a great move, and I didn't know that they had owned two other healthcare companies. So it's just expanding it further into their diversification into that world. A record 4.3 million workers walked off the job in August. The number of people quitting their jobs is still smashing records. Now, this isn't talking for August. This article just came out yesterday. The number of job openings in August took a breather from the record highs it had been notching in recent months, but a record 4.3 million workers walked off the job, according to the Federal Job Openings and Labor Turnover Summary. Job openings fell from a record 10.9 million to 10.4 million, an unexpected drop that experts say that the could be attributed to contractions in commercial activity due to the Delta variant of the coronavirus, falling economic expectations, companies taking late summer breathers from hiring, statistical noise, or some combination of the above. The other thing I would say is when you talk about August, I'd like to see where did those numbers come into play. And the reason is because if it was at the end of summer, anybody who took summer jobs aren't going to stay doing summer jobs when summer ends and they got to go back to, they're going back to school and stuff. So that probably always plays a part in August numbers. I wouldn't be surprised if August numbers and maybe January numbers were always a bit higher than normal. If we look across the board, across broad cross sections of the economic metrics, we know there's been some moderation recently in forecasters' expectations. Says Mark Hamrick, the chief financial analyst at Bankrate. The International Monetary Fund shaved a percentage point off its growth projection for the U.S. gross domestic product this year, paring its forecast Tuesday from 7% to 6%. There continue to be a lot of remarkable cross currents in the economy. It stands to reason that there would be a cost to that with respect to employment. But with more than 10 million unfilled job openings, it is clear that more workers are seeking greener pastures. The rate of people quitting their jobs reached a record 2.9%, leading with increases among people leaving hotel, dining, and wholesale trade jobs. Given the fact that we have a lower employment levels overall, it's kind of incredible to see thousands of people quitting. Says Julia Pollock, the chief economist over at ZipRecruiter. She suggested that the continued desire to avoid jobs with a lot of in-person contact could be driving some of the migration. It's interesting to see how widespread these record quits are. What may be part of what's going on here is people are leaving these on-site sectors for more remote-friendly sectors. Job openings fell the most in two industries, which is healthcare and social assistance, and accommodation and food services sectors seismically affected by the long duration of the pandemic. Experts warn that the labor shortage is weighing on the ability of mom and pop businesses to thrive, and even in a growing number of cases to survive. The small business networking platform Alignable found that 1/3 of restaurant owners surveyed expressed doubt that they could make it through the holidays without going out of business. The inability to hire was cited as a key factor, said Alignable co-founder and CEO Eric Groves, who warned that other kinds of businesses that heavily depend on labor to generate revenue, such as personal services and transportation, face similar risks. Wherever labor is the critical element to revenue, it's a challenge. The problem is when you're short-staffed, you've got to give your staff a break so you can deliver the level of service you want. Grove said that the businesses of all stripes have had to raise pay on top of paying higher costs for supplies, ingredients, and other raw materials, but that many others struggled to find workers at all. And the new survey from the National Federation of Independent Business, or NFIB, found that a record 51% of small businesses reported being unable to fill jobs. It's an incredibly difficult time for those who have open positions to find and attract applicants, said Holly Wayne, of the executive director of NFIB Research Center. For many For many of them, they're not receiving any applications. There are just no resumes coming in right now. She said, even though a record 42% of small businesses said they have increased pay, and 30% said they plan to do so in the next 3 months, Wade said high turnover is the existing workforce, or said higher turnover in the existing workforce aggravates the challenge. The shortage is increasingly weighing on business owners' outlook for the future. NFIB survey found the small business optimism fell and owner uncertainty rose. That weighs on plans for growth, such as capital investment. The survey found, despite the contraction of in job openings, Wade said the labor shortage remains a cloud hanging over economic recovery. I don't see that this issue is easing up anytime soon. Small business owners are planning to have to deal with this well into 2022. Well, this echoes exactly what we've been talking about here on the EntrepreNEWS day in and day out, that the rising costs of everything and the lack of being able to get labor, to be able to pay labor, and it is a vicious cycle that I don't know that raising interest rates will start to curtail or help curtail. And if you're struggling right now to be able to pay the people that you have to keep them, I think it's really, I think depending on what kind of industry you're in, it might behoove you to start, looking at passing the buck along if you haven't already. Pass that buck along of like, okay, we're, I need to increase the pay in order to keep the skilled workers that I have, because getting any kind of workers in general is tough right now, and keeping them where they're at and where they're happy is not the easiest. On top of worker incentives, especially when you're competing with companies like Amazon and Walmart and Target. They're like, hey, like we'll pay you a lot more money than you're making right now, and we're going there, but the work that they're going to ask them to do is not the same, right? So if you have specialized people, a great example is this Louis Rossmann. If you're not a fan or know of Louis Rossmann, he runs a repair shop up in New York City. And through the pandemic, he went through and kept his, I think it was 14 employees. It hurt him through doing so, because he wasn't making as much money as he was before the pandemic, but he knew that being able to hold on to the skilled workers that he had was so critical. And now coming through the pandemic, he's doing better because of the fact that he's not trying to keep, or having to go find new people, train new people, because the people that he would have let go would have just moved on and did something else with their time and with their money. So even though they didn't have as much work coming through, which is kind of weird because the pandemic, has shown us that people, are still buying electronics. Like there's a chip shortage and all that. So like there's still a demand for this stuff. He decided he would keep his employees and keep paying them. And in some cases, when things were so slow, they would just be like out front, like tossing a football around or something. And when the shop's cleaned up and everything's good, but there's nothing going on, like he's like, I'd rather pay them to do nothing so that when times get good, I still have this pool of talent here, and they have remained loyal to him. I think one of the things here that a certain section of people have decided that they just aren't going to, they're not going to put up with any crap anymore. They're not going to sit back and be like, well, I really didn't like what I was doing, or I didn't like the people I was working for, I didn't like this or that. And they just decide, you know what, I'm just gonna bail. Like there's no, because when you looked around and you say, oh, United Airlines, right after their government subsidy ended, they let go 30,000 people like that. And then literally a month and a half later are crying about a labor shortage. Oh, they can't get people. Like, that's a lot of people. That's a lot, 30,000 people. Like, 30,000, you're talking about resumes, trying to get people to come back, incentivize people to come to that industry. People at that point have already moved on. They decide, hey, well, why don't I try to get a remote working job? But like, why not? Why do I have to go to an office? Or why do I have to put up with this stuff? Like, let me go to something that fits my life better, the life that I want to live. I mean, I always preach that for the business owners, right? Build your business for your lifestyle, not your lifestyle for your business. And the same goes for people. You got to do the things that make you happy. We only get one chance at all this, right? And spending it miserable is not gonna is it's just miserable. There's no award at the end to say, hey, you did a good job. You did the thing, and we're proud of you for hanging in there and being miserable for 30 years of your life, or 40 years of your life, or 50 years of your life. Do the things that make you happy, and that's why, like, even with the entrepreneurs, the super entrepreneurs that I work with that are starting their own businesses, I always say, like, let's find where the passion is, right? And then we can start to work from that passion. What can we do? What can we accomplish? What business can you start that actually aligns with that passion, rather than, and it might be hard. It ain't easy. It ain't easy doing, starting a business. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody that of the 30,000 people, the 20,000 people, the 10,000 people, the 100,000 people that got laid off through the pandemic, or hundreds of thousands of people in general that got laid off through the pandemic, they all didn't just start businesses. Some of them did, but not all of them. And owning a business isn't necessarily for everybody. But I think that, if you're in a position where you're like, why should I, go through the trouble? Why should I go through, that there's no loyalty here for me? Why? Then maybe it is. Maybe it's time to take a stand and do something. But the story of the Burger King, where they put up on the sign, "We're sorry, we all quit," it comes to mind. And companies that enable and owners that enable poor management skills on themselves, as well as enabling poor management to take root in your organization and create toxic situations, I think you absolutely are going to pay the price. You're going to pay the price for that, and especially when you have competition by bigger companies than yours that are going to offer more benefits, more opportunities, more of a ladder to climb, less blockades in that ladder to be able to for them to scale and get somewhere higher with their life and their skills and their desires and their passions. It's going to be hard. So I think there's more to working somewhere than just how much money am I going to make. There's more than just benefits and how much time off, right? But there's the management skills, and that's one of the reasons I say sales won't save your business, because it will not save your business. You absolutely have to do everything that you can do to create a great team culture, a great offer, and build the processes for the team and the customers to go through that makes them want to be there and want to interact with you and the rest of the company and all the customers that come along with it. And if you're not willing to step up and do those things, then you're going to pay the price. You're absolutely going to be paying the price, because these big companies are just swallowing up people for the holiday season. And these small businesses, unfortunately, good and or bad, are going to be left in the dust, which I think that that's why you got to go and you got to work hard to figure out, what can I do? What can I offer? What can I pivot that these other companies can't offer? Here we go. So 500 million, let's see, update one US $500 million joint venture aims to curb climate change with forest investments. Blue Source, a private U.S. company that advises companies on emissions reductions, said Tuesday that it has entered a $500 million joint venture with an investment firm to purchase timber forests to help curb climate change. The joint venture with Oak Hill Advisors, called Blue Source Sustainable Forest Company, aims to purchase and more sustainably manage more than 1 million acres of forests in North America. Oak Hill, which has more than $50 billion in assets, will finance the vast majority of the venture, and Blue Source will finance the rest, said Roger Williams, the president of Blue Source. Williams said the venture would allow his company to move beyond developing projects that generate carbon credits to becoming an asset manager of forest lands. There is a societal and climate benefit associated with harvesting forests less intensively, and there are markets that exist today that reward long-term management behavior. The joint venture aims to buy timber forests and co-invest alongside traditional forest managers to develop carbon credits verified by independent organizations. They said that it would generate carbon credits by cutting down fewer trees than traditional timber operations and taking other steps to allow the forest to keep growing robustly and absorb more carbon dioxide than it would otherwise. It added it would sell the credits representing emissions reductions to companies such as natural gas producers in mandatory carbon markets like California, and voluntary carbon markets where companies are looking to reduce emissions to net zero. Blue Source, which manages nearly 80 forest projects from Alaska to South Carolina, did not say that where the forests in the joint venture aims to purchase or co-manage are located. They will likely be mixed hardwood forests such as oaks, maples, and poplar, rather than monoculture pine stands in the southeast. So, I love the fact that a company is able to, basically, hey, we're a timber company, right? We're taking down trees, but we're going to do it more sustainably, and then we're going to be able to sell that reduction of emissions, right, by being more responsible with the forest that we are working, that we are cutting down, and making sure that they grow properly to absorb more carbon, then turn around and sell it. So it's like there's an opportunity on top of an opportunity on top of wrapped in a good venture for the earth. Like I just love that, and I wanted to share that article with you today, because I think that there's other opportunities out there for us to look at on a smaller scale, right? Maybe you get together with some other businesses in your if you have a industrial park or something like that, and you're like, hey, like, let's get together and get some solar panels or something to that effect. Like, what's some ways that you can give back that also helps, put money back into the business? And in this case, this is a great opportunity for the forest company, the Blue Source, as well as the companies that are going to be buying it to offset their carbon that they're creating. And regardless of what you may think of the carbon taxes or carbon credits that are created, I think that the key to this is that even though there is a great opportunity for Earth, there's a good opportunity for the business, and that's where I think why I wanted to bring this up is that what's good for business can also be good for the earth, and that's the direction that more and more companies need to look at. And without necessarily like here's a good example of like the plastic straws, right? Like I get reducing the need for plastic straws. I get it. But paper straws aren't the answer. Paper straws actually use more energy to create, and they suck. They just suck. I mean, they don't suck in the good way either. Like they fall apart, and it's like, if I'm getting myself a milkshake, the last thing I want is a straw that's falling apart. And I think with the other day I got an icy, and all they had was paper straws there. So guess what? I ended up taking like 2 or 3 paper straws because I ended up going through them, because if I had to rely on the one paper straw to drink the icy, I wasn't going to be able. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. So, I don't know that that's the answer. I think that there's certain situations where paper straws make sense, but I think more better would be like permanent kind of straws, straws that you create and you wash, like utensils at a restaurant. Like, I think that would make more sense than plastic straws, or paper straws for that matter. I would love to know what you think down in the comments below. Finally today, real quick Evergrande update. Their stock is still frozen, and there isn't much of an update other than the China credit growth slows amid property and Evergrande trouble. So China's credit growth slowed in September, as weakness in the property market amid Evergrande crisis weighed on financing and lending activities, despite the central bank's call to stabilize credit expansion. I mean, this goes into a whole big thing, but yeah, I mean, that's basically the update that I have for Evergrande today. Is like no news is slow. Slow. Things are still slow, and things aren't necessarily happening the way we want them to happen and play out. So we'll continue to monitor it, and hopefully we don't ever have to hit the panic button on the situation that is potentially looming in the background. I'm really hopeful that this is going to get sorted out. But as time goes on, I will admit I'm getting a little nervous myself, because you add this to the way the rest of the pandemic economy, and it's not good. It's not good. It's not gonna be very pretty. So hopefully we get some news that things start to shape up the way that we need them to, in order to make things go not completely into the toilet. Finally today, the question came up in the comments: is it better to try to fix my brand versus take a fresh start on a brand new brand? Oh, I'm hitting my mic everywhere. Should I try to fix my brand or start a fresh brand? So I have some feelings about this, because I have done that. I've done that a couple of times over the years, changing brands for my independent podcast conference and community, as well as with the Pardo Truck Parts getting spun into Medway Trucking, and then eventually that going away, and it be a whole new brand, or actually our brand of Pioneer Truck Sales being spun into Pardo Fleet Solutions. So I've been around it enough over the years, and I think it depends on what the reputation is for the brand, for what you have going on, and if the name of the business that you have reflects where you're heading with the business going into tomorrow. So if you're trying to like totally pivot your business, it might make sense to start fresh and start a brand new brand. It could also be if you have a identity problem, but the identity problem isn't necessarily you, and it's not necessarily the the business itself, but the how people perceive what it is that you do. So this would be like having a company. So in this case, we have Pioneer Truck Sales, right? And Pioneer Truck Sales, Pioneer hasn't sold trucks. I mean, they would sell, I don't know, maybe one truck a year, used truck or something like that. But it was a repair shop for the most part, right? And what happened, but back in the day when it first started, back in like the late '60s, early '70s, they did sell. My great uncle, grandfather, great grandfather would sell the truck, sell trucks from there, used trucks. So that model kind of waned over time, and they were mostly into the fixing of the trucks. And then every once in a while, they would have trucks to sell, and you have to sell so many trucks a year to keep your license. But Pioneer Truck Sales didn't really lend itself to what they did. So, my dad was thinking about it, and he ended up going with Pardo Fleet Solutions because that better served where the company that he wanted to bring to the forefront was heading. Truck repair being a part of it, but also parts eventually, selling parts eventually, being able to have like a AAA service for truckers to call 24/7 and have somebody come and get their fix their truck, roadside assistance, doing on-site maintenance of trucks, as well as we eventually went into doing RV and generator services as well. So it better encompassed what we do now versus back when it was Pioneer Truck Sales. Now that still exists and still does some business on the side as a piece of Pardo Fleet Solutions, but for the most part, it is its own thing. And so I think that it's important to understand like what the perception of the business that you currently have is. What does that name say that you do? And like here's an example, a theoretical. You have McDonald's. If McDonald's starts selling tacos tomorrow, do you think it should still be called McDonald's? Probably not, because the amount of time and energy and money that it would take to re-educate the public is enormous. To go from burgers to now we're selling tacos. We ain't selling burgers anymore. We're selling tacos. And maybe it's McDonald's tacos or something like that. Or the Golden Arch tacos or Golden Arch burritos or something like that. But starting a whole fresh brand, I think it's a lot of work, but ultimately I think would generally will pay off, unless with the only aside I would say is if people have an attachment. But even people having an attachment to a name. So in the case of Independent Podcast Conference, it was called the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference for the longest time, for like 5 years. And I decided after talking with some friends to utilize, like maybe they should change the name. People loved calling it MapCon. We had a great following year after year, but growth had kind of stagnated a little bit, and I would get emails every year asking, is the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference for me? I live in California. I live in this state or that state, or I live on the other side of the world and want to come. And, the answer is always yes, but that name, even though the name really stuck because that's where we held the events in the Philadelphia area. So when I decided to change the name to Independent Podcast Conference, there was definitely some pushback. ICON for short. And there was pushback from the people who most loved it, but very quickly, people got it. And the brand was actually able to grow so much quicker because more people got it and understood that, like, hey, Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference was for independent podcasters, but now it's in the name, and it's not limited to an area that people feel like they aren't a part of unless they happen to know me or know somebody else that was in it. So I at that point, that was a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B of fixing and starting fresh. So I think that there's, if you have like a bar, I mean, I see this on Bar Rescue all the time where, you have a bar that's been there for 100 years and people have been coming there, and now all of a sudden you're going to go and change the name. Well, the name has history. The name had a reputation of being great at one point, and then it becomes bad. That's where it's time to fix the brand, right? Because people know the name. They know, even if you called it something else, people are going to still call it. It's just like Disney's MGM Studios became Disney Hollywood Studios. People still call it MGM. I still call it MGM most of the time. And it's easier to say. It just rolls off the tongue. And, I've been saying it since forever. So, that's a case where, okay, you tried to fix the brand, but for the most part it works, but it's still, people are going to feel attached one way or the other. I mean, I still have people calling my event MapCon, and that's fine. It's not the end of the world, but for the most part, Icon is the future. That's where we're headed. And now it's been that way for a couple of years. So people are starting to get used to I'm starting to get used to not calling it MapCon, just saying, oh yeah, we're going to Icon, or we're going to be hosting Icon. And yeah, so I think if you have this situation where it's like, oh, this bar's been there for 100 years, or you have this place that's been there for 100 years. I mean, heck, we bought a place, or we were running a place that was a GMC dealership for the longest time. And it was Gallo GMC. And after we moved in with Pardo Truck Parts, people still called it Gallo, because that's just what they just knew it to be Gallo. It's Gallo. So, people are going to call what they want. I mean, not that we couldn't call it Gallo GMC or whatever, but, people are just referring to it what they're used to referring to it as. And, I think that if you're in that situation where you're trying to figure out, like, okay, should I change that name of that 100-year-old bar or keep it? The only thing I could see doing is maybe if it's been that bad for that long, I would still try to keep the brand, but maybe if you could shorten it, it's like, maybe it's some long name or something like that, and you're just shortening it to whatever people call it. Because like, people would come to Pardo Truck Service Parts Warehouse Inc., and you'd hear them on the phone. They pick up the phone and be like, yeah, I'm over at Pardo's. Like, oh, okay. Well, it's not really called Pardo's. It's Pardo's Truck Service, or they would just say Truck Service. So, maybe shortening up the name going forward would make sense, right? So we have Pardo Fleet Solutions. Really, I mean, it's Pardo's. Yeah. So I think that it depends on what kind of reputation you had before and what kind of reputation you're planning on having going forward. And if the business is going to operate in the same lanes that it operated before. If it's different, it might be time to start fresh. So that way you're not creating a confusion going the other way, where, again, the McDonald's example, we've sold burgers for getting close to 100 years now. Guess what? Now we're changing it. And we're only selling tacos. Okay, well, guess what? That's a whole new brand that needs to be rolled out, because people are going to go to McDonald's and be like, where's the burgers? I need the burgers. Yeah, they might sell salads, but where's the burgers? That's what we're there for. Just like you're here to listen and learn with the EntrepreNEWS, I appreciate you watching and listening every single day here. I'm having so much fun doing this. And if you leave me a comment down below what you want to hear, if there's a story you want me to follow or cover, that'd be awesome to hear from you. If you want to leave a comment or a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be great, or your favorite podcast player of choice. That would be awesome as well. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you have an amazing day. I should have the preview video for Shark Tank season 13, episode 2, probably coming out today or tomorrow, most likely. So look forward to that. We have a new another Shark Tank pitch going live today. The show no. Which is a lot of fun. I have some interviews coming down the pike in the next week or so with a couple of different Shark Tank business owners, that contestants, if you will, that have been on the show Shark Tank. So I'm looking forward to getting those out. And and join me this Friday night from between 9 and 11 p.m. Eastern will be the new Shark Tank episode. episode 2 for season 13. That will all the pitches will go live. As well as if you want to work on your business, come and hang out with me as well as work one-on-one on your business. Go to superjoepardo.com/mastermind. It's just $97 a month to join. You get 4 hours a month with me in a group setting. Plus you get 1 hour a month with me where we work one-on-one directly focused on your business and your needs and what you can do. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below or shoot me an email, joe@superjoepardo.com. I will see you in the next video, which will probably be over here at some point. Have a great day. Take care.